Since I did a video with the Atomic Amplifier 6, a bunch of you guys have been asking if I can compare the 6 to the 12 and what my opinion is on both of them. Well, I've got my 6 here, and thanks to Android Independent Music, I've got a 12 here to try out for you guys. So the main thing that you'll notice is this is big, this is small, this is red, and this is black. So what are the main differences between these things? And is there any difference in the way they actually sound, which is an important thing? So essentially the Amplifier 6 and the Amplifier 12, they've got exactly the same DSP, it's running the same firmware, it's basically the same thing in a different box. The 6, if you've noticed, and if you own an Amplifier 6, when you go into the editor, you notice that you can like assign effects to foot switches which aren't there, which are there on the 12. So you could use a 6 with a couple of extra external foot switches. There is 2 inputs here for expression pedals, which you can use those for. So you could easily expand this to 8 foot switches. But the 12 is kind of cool because you can use these buttons here to bank up and down between presets, which you can't do with your feet on the 6. So if you are looking to get an all-in-one modeling solution, one floorboard that does it all, that's super flexible, holds all your presets, this one definitely has the advantage over that, and it's only like an extra $100. The other thing which is cool is the screen is bigger on the 12, which might not seem like a sort of big issue at all, but when you see them side by side, hopefully that kind of does it. I'll take some more footage and show you guys side by side with them on. In my experience testing them out here, it's way easier to edit with the bigger screen. It's sort of like the screen on the 6 is just a little bit too small. It's kind of below that threshold value of usability where if I do have to edit anything on the 6, it does get a bit annoying, so I try to do everything with the editor, the software-based editor, whereas I actually found it pretty easy on the 12 to navigate on there. The screen's sort of just big enough. And like I said, that might seem like a small issue to you, but for me, if I'm at a gig and I'm using something, having a bigger screen is really important. So the UI is a little bit better. And then, again, this is like a super finicky kind of thing, but the knobs all in a row, I think is a cool thing as well, because it's just like an amp rather than, you know, with this, I found if I want to go like grab the mid-range knob or something, sometimes I'll look at mids and I'll turn that one instead, and I'll turn the master up and I have to turn it back. So it's kind of like idiot proof, and I'm definitely an idiot when it comes to using gear like that. So yeah, the other thing as well is everything is on the back here. So if you were using the 12 as an all-in-one modeling solution, everything's on the back, it's out of your way. One thing that I don't like with pedal boards is like cables coming in different directions. So this is cool because everything goes in and goes out of the back. Whereas with the 6, because it's more compact, your guitar goes in the side, and then you've got outputs on one side and outputs on the back. So that's not necessarily a bad thing if you're using it in the context of like a bigger pedal board, which is where I think this thing kind of has the advantage. If you want to use your external pedals like your drives and chucking, you know, something like an Eventide H9 in the loop, which I've got, which integrates really well, and obviously it's got MIDI switching on it, which is pretty cool. A really cool rig, I reckon, which would be sort of like crossing both, you know, mixing brands, which as one infamous commenter said, you're not allowed to do, but running something like a HX Stomp together with an Amplifier 6, I think would be really cool. But again, that's way more expensive than just going and getting a 12 and sort of running everything. I'm loving this. I feel like the ultimate digital shill, which, hey, according to some of you guys, I am. So, it's, I guess if the shoe fits, wear it, right? So they're sort of like the functionality and the usability things. They're not that much different in weight either. I'll have to look up what the specs are, but this is nice and light. This one's lighter again, which is pretty cool. The main thing for me that I would get a 6 for is because I can chuck it in my guitar bag. So I normally use a Fractal AX8 for all my live stuff. Having a backup's really handy. I talked about this more in my other video with the Atomic. So just being able to chuck this, have it all pre-programmed, and it's like a last-minute backup, for me, does the trick. But for you, if you wanted an all-in-one modeling solution, you might find it's just a little bit light on the number of foot switches, in which case, grab a 12. It's only an extra $100 and you've got way more foot switches, way more hardware, which is cool. But if you did want to grab a 6 and use it with other pedals, I think it's probably a more portable solution than the 12, because by the time you chuck like, you know, let's say like an Eventide H9 with it and an expression pedal, you've got a pretty big bag and it cuts down on that portability factor. The other thing as well, I did claim that they sounded exactly the same, that they're running the same DSP and the same firmware. We should probably test that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a loop through the 6 and the 12 with exactly the same preset that I have imported using the editor. Let's have a listen to that side by side, and if you can tell a difference, your ears are a lot better than mine. Hopefully that at least illustrated the point that I was trying to make, that they sound exactly the same. So to sort of sum it up, to me it comes down to your use case scenario. I think either way they're really good value for money. If you need, in my case, a portable rig that you can chuck in your guitar bag, either as a backup or as just a tiny rig for fly gigs, this hits a spot really, really nicely. I think it also hits a spot if you want to have a direct solution for your pedal board that doesn't take up too much space. So if you've got an existing pedal board that you really like, and you want to just add a modeler to it, or even if you just want to use it as an IR loader and for some extra effects, I think the 6 hits a spot again. The reason it works nicely, I think, as well, is you've got jacks on the side and on the back as well. So it's a little bit more, it's like tiny little things like that work in the context of a pedal board. If you want something that's actually going to replace your existing rig, if you want to just get into an all-in-one modeling solution, I think the 12 is the winner, just because you've got the extra foot switches and you've got the functionality of being able to bank up and down, which I think is huge if you're going to be using this and using multiple presets. For an extra $100, that's probably worth it on its own. But you do get the extra foot switches, you get all the knobs in the row, you get a bigger screen. It's essentially just like, the 2.0 version of everything. It's bigger, it's not better in any sort of sonic sense, but it's just bigger and more functional. But that bigness might be a drawback. So I'm sure you've already thought of all of these things that I've mentioned. What do I reckon? This goes in my guitar bag to every gig, so it's kind of a no-brainer. But it really does depend on your use case. I think in terms of value for money, the Atomic products are really, really good. Sure, you don't get as many cabs, you don't get as many amps. It's nowhere near as exhaustive as something like an Axe-Fx or even a Helix or a Kemper. But then again, it's not directly competing with them. It's a more cost-effective solution. The stuff that's there sounds really good. There's just not as much of it. So yeah, hopefully that kind of answers that question of like, which one should you get, or at least it gives you some food for thought if you have tried both of them out and you can't make up your mind. Again, a huge thanks to Andrew at Independent Music for making all this happen. He's an absolute legend. Their service is second to none, whether you're using the Atomic stuff or the Fractal stuff. Independent are I don't normally have a lot of nice things to say about music shops and distributors, but these guys, I definitely do. Anytime I've had a query, Andrew's been on the phone within 5 minutes. So yeah, kudos to that guy. Thank you guys for watching all of this video. If you've got any comments or any questions, please get them in the video description. And this is your favorite shill for Big Digital, Leon Todd, signing off. Go and make some music. Be excellent to one another.